All right.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello.
Critical Role.
Welcome. Hey, Mommy Cthulhu. Best mom.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Jonaleth. Hey. Shout out some follows. Jimmy Chuffless, 2314 DSP, and Nat Carr. Thank you all so much for the follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, podcast 102.
Podcast 102.
Talking about Critical Role and among other things, but largely Critical Role.
Yep.
Because it's kind of been a long time coming, because we've gotten really into this series, and we haven't really properly gotten the chance to talk about it because it's not an anime.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, it's one of those productions that I would say a lot of people in our circle are starting to become aware about, but a lot of people still don't know. And we're going to be giving you basically the spoiler-free TLDR shill, but also we're going to tie it into a lot of the things that we like to discuss with regards to stories,
anime,
and all that good stuff. So I got to give a VIP shout out to Lunar. Lunar, thank you so much for the support. It's been a while since we've shouted you out, but going back around to the beginning, so thank you so much for the support, dude.
It means a lot.
And we're really happy to have you as a part of our Discord community. Always love having you on the calls where we discuss anime and all that good stuff. So thank you, dude.
Yes, it is something D&D related. Blue Jonaleth Critical Role is Sam Riegel doing one-man shows. I mean, sometimes it certainly feels that way because he's that good.
Yes. So what is Critical Role? And why should y'all that are us
anime
people, why should we care about this weird group of people? So Critical Role is basically a group of voice actors, people in the voice acting community or acting community of some kind who have either done some anime voice acting for like dubs,
right? But in some cases they're like such well-known names that it's like, oh yeah, this person was basically like your childhood and you didn't even realize it.
Exactly. People like Laura Bailey or
that's the
Travis Willingham, or even going back even further, you have some of the others like Taliesin or
and Ashley Johnson. She's probably the most well-known by like normie people because she was in the first Avengers movie. She was the cafe waitress that Captain America saves, and she also voices Ellie in The Last of Us, which is kind of a big deal.
So you get all these wonderful people who know how to act, they know how to perform, and they get put into an environment where their acting chops get basically put to
really
the test, and also be combined with this this game. So what is there in there for all of us anime fans? Well, you get to hear basically Mustang, playing like a character. You get to hear Laura Bailey, who is everyone basically play her characters and such.
It's incredibly nostalgic to basically be watching this show and to have these character voices in your head, but it's other characters, right? The idea that it's like, oh yeah, this is Mustang, but no, in this case he's not Mustang, he's Grog Strongjaw. Or Matt Mercer, McCree in Overwatch, giving his whole "it's high noon," but instead he's taking you on this narrative exploration through this amazing world.
He's the true schizo playing like 25 characters in a month's time or what have you. It's like, oh, no big deal. And then we end up getting into what the actual game is. And D&D is basically just a way for a group of people to create a story together. They collaboratively come together and put their inspiration, their creativity, and their acting chops together and end up making a story with someone who's kind of their guide and kind of helps arrange things in some level of structure.
Yeah, so if you haven't ever heard of D&D, well then that's one thing, but that's something that can make it a lot more interesting to get into this because so many anime like isekai and stuff are all based around D&D. But then in this case, if you're like me, when I first thought the idea of watching other people play D&D, I was like, that sounds like one of the most boring things possible. Why would I ever want to do that, right? Because D&D takes a long time, right? And a lot of it's like people rolling dice and things like that. But the thing is, D&D is one of the most magical experiences out there, in my mind, right? I love D&D. It's absolutely amazing. And the thing is that usually it boils down to those really important moments that stick with you forever. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that when I would play D&D, those moments would happen, but they would be once in a blue moon. But they'd be these diamonds in the rough, and that would be, and it felt very similar to anime in that regard, where it's always hunting for that next diamond to find, right?
Yeah.
But in the case with like Critical Role, because they're all pro voice actors and drama is their bread and butter, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it is ridiculous how often it happens, just how good it is. So
yeah. Trashocon, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. Hello, today I'm pretty sleepy, so I'll just listen to you guys while going to sleep. So not really much interaction by me. Greetings from Austria. Hey, Trashocon, well, thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate it, and have a good wind down till your sleep.
Yes.
So let's actually just get into what D&D is, so that people have a little bit of a ground-based thing on what this is. So, any of you watched one of those like isekai anime where you have basically the video game-esque kind of main character going in and getting their RPG stats, and then they end up, kind of grouping up with a bunch of people who they have to, kill monsters
and
to go on adventures and all that? That is D&D without all the dice rolling. Right. D&D is just a game of people doing all that stuff in their imagination, and then they have a book with a couple dice that basically reference certain structural rules regarding how your actions take place in said game. But basically, D&D has always like been a huge influence in the fantasy genre, like way back when it started in the 60s and stuff. But that was basically all an extrapolation of what Lord of the Rings influenced the fantasy genre.
Exactly.
So now it's come basically all the way to the point where anime is making the D&D experience basically in every fantasy anything anime out there right now. Like anything that even lightly touches upon fantasy. They're like, okay, let's take the tropes of the D&D group, the D&D party, the D&D kind of meeting in a tavern and then getting quests and going on a thing together, the party experience and what have you.
And there's a lot of things about D&D that are downright educational about storytelling and things like that.
Yeah.
That at least for me, made it so that once I got familiar with the whole role-playing experience, I never looked at stories the same way twice. Yeah. One of the biggest ways for that is that there's this idea that basically everything is a D&D party. Like every story, whatever you're dealing with, right?
Yep.
Because it's taking one of those classic tropes of stories and the main characters and the main cast and the ragtag band that somehow, fit together and become a family over the course of time and all that stuff, that each have their own character arcs and progressions and things like that. That basically is, like, D&D is that codified.
Yeah.
Like, and it's pretty incredible.
It's a system. It all works together. And Critical Role as a show is something we're going to be like both drawing inspiration from certain story discussion things that we'll talk about in the podcast here, but also kind of inviting you to take a look into, because one of the things that we do specifically with all these shows is we get deep into the discussion regarding the characters and all the experiences that it brings to you. But the best I would say reason for that is because all these shows naturally generate community. All the anime that we really get into, the longer and longer they go, the bigger the potential for the community to form around them is.
Right.
It's really awesome to watch those once in a blue moon, like one course shows. They're just this perfect little package of story. It's just like, oh, wonderful. Right. But then there are those other shows where they just keep going, and the community, the fandom gets so invested into it that it just becomes this behemoth. And Critical Role is like that, and it's just getting started.
Right, that's the crazy thing about it.
We are like almost inviting you to get on the hype train early, as like early as you can.
Because like okay, we're starting to get into One Piece, right?
Yes.
And there's this amazing thing that we're getting, introduced to, and it's wonderful, and the size that One Piece as a story, but then also as a community has reached is because of how extensive it is, right?
Yes.
And the extensiveness multiplied by the quality, right? It's the combination of those two. And in this case, Critical Role is fairly new in that it's only been around for like, what, 3 or 4 years or something, Oh,
Critical Role, I think it's D&D,
Yeah. And
3 years, 4 years.
Right, exactly. Now, there's a ton of content out there because each episode is like, 3-4 hours because it's a D&D session.
Right.
But the thing is that because of that, we're, like you said, pretty much in the beginning of the Critical Role journey. Yeah. And 2, it's already this big. Like, it's already this big, and the community behind it is ridiculous and amazing.
Yeah.
So if you are into those long-running stories and stuff that with can generate with that fantasy spin, and especially the idea that it could theoretically go on forever, this is one of the best ones for that, because like they did the one campaign that it started with, and that went for like 115 episodes, and they started like about midway through the campaign, but that was one thing, and it was amazing, right?
And then you can watch that and have that be your only experience, and you're good. Or you can start with the recent campaign, which was the second one.
Yep.
And they're what, like
70 episodes in, or something like that.
Episodes.
And so the idea that like, the whole like burnout issue that I feel like a lot of times happens with stories where the story keeps going, but then they sort of run out of ideas, but then they need to keep making stories, so then it just turns into this like drivel,
Yeah.
You don't really need to worry about that with Critical Role, because one, it resets every few years, right, when the campaign ends. But also it's something where you have like 8 people that are all pros that are all working together to do it.
Yeah, they're all building their own angle on the story. So what you end up having is you have basically like a coach, if anything, in Matt Mercer, who basically keeps everything within some semblance of sanity, if you will. And then you have all the other characters who are basically all on the same team with regards to building a story. And they basically put out like their little bits of, it's basically essential improv. They set up basically a thing for someone to tee up and hit a home run of story kind of opportunity. And then that leads to another person's thing. And then you get these interactions where you go, that's really fun and stuff. And while it's all character driven and also sometimes rather silly and meta and ridiculous, you end up with this long running narrative that's around a family of characters that you could end up falling in love with. You might not like all of them the most, like the same or anything. You might end up, favoring like 2 specific characters or 3 or what have you. But the community that comes around the idea of these characters all building something together, it feels so enrapturing when you're in the middle of the process and watching the story unfold. Because then when you see them kind of set up something and someone else kind of goes, I see what you did there, and they start building on that as well, you go, oh, wait a minute. Like, there's something here that the other people in the room aren't they're not they're even like making sure they can keep up with it. Because it's not like something where they're like, okay, we're gonna script out that you're gonna say this thing at this time and then I'm gonna do this.
Nope.
You watch them like struggle and fumble over their words every once in a while and figure it out live,
right?
And that's, I'd say, the brilliance of just the Twitch experience. But then having all that with people that are veteran actors, voice actors, basically character creators in another stance of it, and then also having someone who has played the game of D&D for decades with this whole package, it becomes something really special.
It's like, it feels a lot like basically what we do in the sense, and this is gonna, the fact that I'm making the comparison is gonna seem very, like, probably seems very arrogant or whatever if you're familiar with Critical Role, but basically the idea of us doing like off the cuff discussion, right, where it's largely it's improv, right? We're watching something and then we're talking about it, analyzing it, and things like that. But in this case, they're actually like making a story, and because they're so good at it, and because they're tag teaming off of each other, they could theoretically do this forever. Because
there's no limit on their resources other than basically just them planning around their careers and their life as like Travis and Laura are married and have a kid now. So
exactly.
Figure that kind of stuff out.
But
it's a once a week, mostly like consistent, just here we go, a new plug-in of story. And while it's a huge amount of it, and I would say burnout from the standpoint of like creating the story is not going to be an issue. It is something that you don't have to go like deep, head over heels crazy in order to actually get the full experience of said story. You could start out by just watching highlights and getting like, okay, here's 5 minutes there, here's 10 minutes there.
Yeah, like that's how I got started, and that's how Caleb got started, because who has time for hundreds of hours of content, right? Turns out that if you put it to like, I don't know, 1.5 or double speed and have it in the background while you're doing something else, it gets a lot more manageable. But the whole thing of the
sorry, we had bits given to us from Put Your Grasses on. Thank you so much for the 100 bits. Hey, Grass is here. I'm sorry I missed my deadline of the One Piece edit before the stream. I rendered it in 20 minutes ago and like 5 frames glitched that I can't handle being glitched. So you'll see that edit later today. I am proud of this edit though. Very cool.
Wow,
very cool.
Thank you. I know how hard you worked on that. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Excited to see it.
But yeah, so
but with the whole thing of like the improv story being able to theoretically go forever, like that's how difficult that is to do. That's why we often talk about how much we love those short, concise, little bite-sized stories, the one core anime and stuff, because we've been burned out on things like Bleach, for instance, right? Or Heroes, or all kinds of other stories where it was very clear that the writers were burning out.
Yes.
Right? And then because of that, they didn't have a clear end goal in mind. They started running out of ideas, but they had to keep the machine going, and then it just fell apart.
Right. Long-running stories in general give us a little bit of a worry, because what you end up having is a creator or set of creators in the story's, evolution over time that end up adding little bits to it, but the vision, the direction, and where it's going is something that is a burden that's placed upon the main person that kind of led it. And if they don't have the desire to basically continue what could be an infinite story, they end up writing themselves into stupid areas where characters do nonsensical things, where it basically just falls apart under its own weight and success. And we've all probably seen this multiple times. The anime that fell under the weight of basically like the mental health of the creator just not being able to do it, the difficulty of deadlines with regards to drawing things and stuff like that.
And the thing is that in the case of Critical Role, these people have all been like vetted and gone through the ringer of the industry for decades pretty much before this point. And so that basically so that they're really fast at coming up with stuff, and you can tell like and that's where the improv largely comes from. To use what little personal experience I have as a reference for this, when I was writing Battle Lines, by the time I was getting towards the end of the writing journey, I was much faster at writing than I was at the beginning, right? And if I had tried to do the pace that I was doing towards the end at the beginning, it would have been absolute crap. It was still crap in the beginning, right? But then I was able to write faster and have the quality be better. So take that and then basically apply that theory over 20 years worth of experience for 8 people. It's incredible. Like the stuff that they do, they'll come up with stuff on the spur of the moment, and it's like, that's absolute genius. Like, where did that come from? But they don't have to be doing that all the time, because they can do that and then pass it off to someone else.
Right. So the example is that when Jacob and I did a thing on the podcast earlier where we had basically some people bring up some ideas of characters that we can create. And we basically worked with you all, the viewers, and we made some characters like on the spur of the moment. And that essentially was the closest thing to improv character creation. But take that and then have it be essentially like a dialogue, if you will, where say the viewers, y'all, were say 6 of the people, 6 of the cast, and then us 2 were basically the remaining 2 of the 8. And then basically we were trying to generate an entertaining and interesting fantasy story with us each role-playing, acting as a character, staying in character, and then pinging that story back and forth across the 8 of us ad infinitum, like keep going at that. How much like skill is required in order to do that, but that how much you actually learn about storytelling and how it flows and functions, especially with regards to character writing, when you see this being done live.
It is
on a Twitch stream.
Incredible. Like even if you're like not as interested in like the storytelling aspects of things, but like let's say you're actually a D&D fan.
Yeah.
Right? my enjoyment of D&D went through the roof just from watching Critical Role, because I could see how it could go really well. Because like whenever you're doing collaborative storytelling, like we talk about how it's really hard, but it's really hard. And when you have people that don't necessarily know how to do it, then you get a different kind of experience, right?
Yep.
But then like just seeing people doing it amazingly, and then suddenly it's like, whoa, no, this could actually happen. I can glean from that. I can basically say, okay, yeah, I see why that thing that they did there worked really well. Mm-hmm. I know why that conversation between, Pike and Grog at the tavern, about Scanlan worked so well, right?
Right.
And it's incredible. Like considering that D&D is such a big thing for me now, there was a time where it really wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so those of you that are already Critical Role fans in our chat here, y'all know what we're talking about when something is brought up that just ends up giving like something really impactful with regards to the characters here. Oh my god, Bloodhawk Flock. Wow.
We need to say it in the voice.
Wow, okay. I love Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the bits. Oh my god. Can we get some shout outs, some PogChamp, some claps in chat for Bloodhawk Flock? Oh my god, with the 10,000 bits. Yes, Bloodhawk Flock, you're amazing. You're crazy, dude. Thank you so much for the support. Wow. But
on a slightly unrelated note, whenever I see the PogChamps, my mind always first goes to Sam Riegel. Like, yeah. Because like that's totally something he would do.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Bloodhawk Flock.
What were we even talking about before that?
So I just want to bring up something that I think is really important with regards to characters and D&D specifically with regards to Critical Role. Jacob and I have evolved in our tastes and our interests with regards to stories, but in our anime journey, we've had a lot of, I would say, changes regarding things that we like and we find interesting. And for both of us, I think what it is we've moved more into like understanding more appreciating how characters really carry the story and are the story. There's a lot of things I liked when I was younger that were more based around just having a cool concept and a plot that was engaging and gripping, and the characters could be as basic as they came, and as long as
Bleach, for instance,
and as long as the plot kept things moving along, I wasn't going to have any issues with that. I would say what's really special to me about Critical Role is that there are these moments where the characters surprise each other.
Yeah.
So here's something that I think is really special as a writer, is that when you get into the headspace of all your characters and you're trying to write a scene, you end up kind of discovering a character even more so when you put them into these moments of interaction with other characters. You go, oh, I didn't know so-and-so actually talked like that. I didn't know that was something there. But the thing is, it's all on you. Can you imagine the joy of being a writer, but having actually all your characters come to life for you and be basically played out as other people do that job for you?
Oh, yeah, it'd be amazing.
And all you have to do is basically guide this group of main characters that you didn't create. You have no ownership over them, but you get to basically let them explore a world. I feel like that's something that's really special for me as someone that really loves still the whole concept, world, plot, and all that stuff, to basically sit back and let the characters be the characters and have them create the story. There's a lot of anime more recently that we've watched that are shorter anime, I would say more dialogue focused anime that get more into the nitty gritty of just character interaction, and they end up showing how a character will just kind of reveal a new aspect of themselves that's, internally consistent, of course, but something that wouldn't have been brought out unless they interacted with that character.
D&D, I feel like, is a medium for like pure imagination, because it's taking that idea of playing make-believe, right? That we all used to do when we were kids, running around and pretending we were superheroes or, whatever. The whole bang, bang, I got you kind of a thing. But then it's bringing rules and order to that, but then also encouraging it and helping to bring it out of people, when in a lot of cases, certainly in my case, I felt like this was a thing where it's not okay to do that anymore. You know, you need to put all that stuff away. Whereas in the case of D&D, it's giving you a chance and a reason to do that, and encouraging you to do that, and then bringing a bunch of other people together who will do it with you.
Yeah.
And in the case of Critical Role, it's a bunch of people that basically ended up being able to make a living doing that. Like,
right.
and here they make this thing, and it's absolutely incredible. So even if you don't get into Critical Role, like even just trying out D&D, or you know, get into Critical Role, and then maybe you'll, you know, think about trying D&D, because it can be this amazing world that you get brought into that otherwise, even with anime and things like that, you might not.
Yeah. Specifically with regards to improv, though, this is something that you've been actually taking classes on recently.
Largely because of Critical Role.
Largely because of Critical Role. Can you speak on like how like improv has actually like affected you in like real life situations?
Yeah.
Stuff?
So this is something that I had looked into doing improv classes a while, you know, ago, and and, you know, people would always talk about how, you know, it was great fun, it made them more confident and things like that.
Right.
And it was always kind of like, okay, yeah, ha ha ha, sure, whatever. I'm sure that's what they say to sort of like justify it for themselves.
Sure.
You know, because they're really probably just getting scammed by these people that basically say, hey, let's all get together and now you are going to, you know, do this or whatever. And it's like, wow, it's totally worth money and you're bringing a lot of expertise to the table. But I ended up signing up for some improv classes. And I was quite surprised. Even though it's something that is not very like quantifiable, you know, like you can't quantifiably measure just how good an improv scene was, right? Other than maybe like if people laughed or cried or things like that, right? But the way the teacher would systematically get us to loosen up and come out of our shells and things like that, and basically take all of the things that made us people and figure out ways to play off of that in surprising ways for everyone else, right? And it might be something that is fairly familiar to us, as for like why we went down that particular rabbit trail to get to the idea that caused us to do that thing that everyone else was surprised by.
Right.
But it was unbelievably freeing, and it has been, and because you're shooting from the hip, right? You're not stressing out about how you need to make everything perfect.
Right.
It's rolling with the punches, and if anything, when there's mess ups, embracing those and owning them and being like, yes, that was a mess up, and now I'm going to make that be a positive rather than a negative, right? And that's basically the D&D experience, and it absolutely has bled into other areas of my life. Like the whole confidence thing, absolutely. But like, because one of the things that is really tough for me is talking to people that I don't know, you know. That's one of the reasons. Like, I feel like the whole introverted thing is, you know, pretty common amongst anime fans, but that's been a thing for me. And like, whenever I would go to the parties and stuff, you know, and it'd be like, oh yeah, all these people I don't know, I have no idea how I'm going to break the ice with them. If I ever did, I'm sure I'd be able to, you know, talk with them and have great times, right? But I didn't, because I would be afraid of, okay, what do I say? You know, what if something goes wrong? Whatever.
Right.
I don't want to feel awkward and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, improv classes were incredibly helpful for basically saying, yeah, so what? You know, who cares if that happens, right?
Right. I would see a huge amount of value from the aspect of communication. When you do improv, it seems like the biggest thing that you gain from it is you change your thinking around no but to yes and. So a lot of people that have, I would say, poor skills like myself with regards to this, to springing off discussion for, or even just talking ad, you know, infinite, just going on and on without end, use a lot of statements or closing off kind of conversation tools that end up basically killing the potential for cool interactions between people. And with improv, you basically are putting out not necessarily just questions, but questions are a part of it, but things out into the ether and seeing who basically goes and I would describe it as basically like when you're tossing around an inflatable like ball or something at like a concert or what have you.
Right.
Someone basically tosses it up, you know, hits it, and someone else doesn't let it drop. They basically toss it back up again.
Yep.
When a conversation has that, in stories, you obviously have to end conversations as well.
Eventually, yeah. You figure out some segue to go somewhere else or whatever.
Right. Yeah. But if someone in a real life setting was basically just to ask a question and people just answer it with, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it just kills the whole thing. It just ends it.
Yep.
But if they follow up with, oh, yeah, and then how that follows into this? Right. What do you think about that? Yeah. That you basically gave them a yes and then a question as well if they need a little bit of direction. But I've seen with Critical Role, these guys who are masters at improv, people who have done improv acting style stuff for
the fundamentals of how they made their career, basically. Because like even like in the case of voice acting, for instance, I ended up taking some voice acting workshops and stuff. And one of the big things for voice actors is that they usually have almost no time from when they get the script to when they need to give the lines. Right. Uh-huh. Because they'll be in there for like another project, and then it'll be like, hey, can you read for this other character, right? Yeah. And they'll have maybe like a couple minutes, right? And then they have to like read it over real quick, and then somehow give a performance that people would be willing to pay for, right?
Right.
So. And that was basically how I first got into doing improv classes, because it's like, okay, no, there is some very concrete stuff that it helps you with, right? In that case. So watching these people where improv, that was probably like their bread and butter of how they made their living, because they had to be coming up with stuff on the fly, right?
Right.
And then not only doing that, but they had to then sync it to lip flaps. Like
yes, because dub voice actors for anime have it really hard, y'all.
Yeah,
they have it really hard. They basically take a muted form of the anime, then they listen to the audio of how it's supposed to go for this certain part in their head, or with their headphones or what have you, and then go, okay, now I'm going to translate that into English based along this stuff there. But I have to make these words fit to this, so I'm going to work with the director to maybe change out a couple words here and there.
Right, they give you some fixed script for what the English is going to be, but then you have to actually, do it in tempo.
Yeah, exactly. Like Matt Mercer voices Jotaro in the English dubs of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yep, and Erwin in Attack on Titan,
Yeah, exactly. Like, amazing
Levi.
Yeah, he voices Levi.
J. Michael Tatum is Erwin.
Yes.
My
God, Bloodhawk Flock with 1,000 bits. Oh my God, he's just wanting to take his spot back from Ryan H.
Basically.
Will you guys be reacting to the animated series they're doing? We will get to the discussion regarding that Bloodhawk Flock.
Yeah.
We have that at the last bit of our discussion topics for this podcast. So thank you for bringing that up, though. Yes. Also, Dastrin XD, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here.
Yeah. Dub VA's job. Here's the content. Here's the character. And also sync your lips while doing this.
Yes. Yes. So difficult.
Oh man.
My God.
It is crazy. Like there's a reason, and it's kind of funny because like when I hear some of the talk from the cast about like what got them into voice acting, like for I think it was Liam or was it Taliesin? No, it was Liam.
It was Liam.
He actually started on like a fan dub for Evangelion.
Yep.
Because he saw how bad the dubs were back in the 90s, right? Yep. And he's like, this can't be a thing, right?
This is insufferable. I must help fix this,
right? Because you think about how there are some bad dubs that come out nowadays, but remember
25 years ago. Yeah. Anime dubs ranged from bad. Awful to mediocre.
Bad. Yeah,
at best,
mediocre was pretty much the best you could hope for.
In fact, that's why I would say, in a lot of ways, for the West, Cowboy Bebop was such a huge deal.
Oh yeah,
because Cowboy Bebop came out in 95.
98.
98.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Neon Genesis Evangelion was 95. Yeah. But the dub for Cowboy Bebop was
actually really
amazing. And if you look at its peers, a lot of them were just like, ugh, oh boy. Yes, Taliesin Jaffe is one of the elder anime dubbers. He was involved with making the Hellsing dub.
Yeah, he was the dub manager for Hellsing, and
making sure that dub, which was pretty good,
is good stuff. Yeah,
amazing.
And then Liam O'Brien, he's Dr. Tenma in the Monster dub, and Laura Bailey, she's Laura Bailey. She's Maka and Soul Eater. She's Lust and Fullmetal Alchemist. She's
all over the place.
She's everywhere.
She was Funimation's golden child for female voice acting, along with Colin Clinkenbeard.
Colin Clinkenbeard, but
Colin Clinkenbeard was before.
Right, they were actually roommates.
Laura Bailey was, I believe, Trunks in the DBZ dub.
I think that was her first role.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
But
okay, so that's all of that. We have a clip we want to showcase a lot of you guys.
Yes.
We're gonna shout out another YouTuber here who did an animation of a specific scene in Critical Role that is quite legendary. So this is a completely non-plot relevant scene in the story. This is an example of the antics that you can get up to
in
when
D&D.
you have when you
multiplied by great voice actors.
Multiplied by great voice actors and a little bit of silliness and fun. So let me set that up here really quick. But for those of you that are like, I'm not really sold on this whole...
Just watch this with us. No, it's not Victor. And the thing is, there are too many of these clips to count.
Yes.
But this is just one of the ones that's great, and it's animated, so it makes it a bit simpler.
Exactly. All right, let me make sure I've got this all set up correctly here. For those of you that have watched
Puffin Forrest's video.
Yes, this is Puffin Forrest's video of a specific legendary scene in Critical Role. So this is a scene with Travis Willingham's character Grog and Sam Riegel's character Tyrion Darrington, and they're just gonna go shopping. They're just gonna go shopping. This is what can happen when these characters go shopping.
And if you don't know who Sam Riegel is, he did like Donatello, and he was what's his name in Ace Attorney and things like that. So
yeah, another fantastic voice actor. But you get to see these two basically just
hamming it up and having fun. It's great.
So scenes like this are what you can expect from Critical Role. So let's enjoy this together here.
Up carefully.
Oh, hold on. Let me restart it. Didn't have the audio up.
Oh.
Okay, there we go.
Pile of cloth and kind of wraps it up carefully.
Okay.
Sets it down. A pleasure doing business with you all.
The gift wrapping.
And this is some of the work that the fandom has created.
Right.
It's
the fandom for Critical Role is amazing.
Turns and leaves the room.
What was that?
You hear behind you guys at the doorway.
Oh shit!
Some of the impacts of metal rapidly and heavily. And you glance behind and you see, walking through the doorway, the very heavy hulking figure of Dodie carrying two unconscious guards that are hanging from his hands. He goes,
what did you give me those? I'll punch them both one time each in the jaw, just for extra measure.
okay. Both jaws are very broken.
Oh no.
Well, your guy really did a number. Cool. Okay. Everybody's gonna die. Alright, so we're gonna kill everyone that we see in the next 10 seconds.
Even the shop owner.
Yep, he's gotta die.
Oh shit. Alright. Partners.
That's my favorite part right there.
I'll do whatever you say.
Is there like a counter in the shop?
Yeah, there's a counter in the front area.
Is it wooden?
Yeah.
Can he see through the counter?
No, the proprietor is in the back room.
No, great.
He's wrapping your stuff right now.
He doesn't know what this happened. Let's get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Well, what's in the shop?
There's a couple lanterns. It's warm lit on the interior. As you're looking around, it's not a huge establishment, but
I love it.
I mean, make a perception check.
2.
You have no idea. You're
Saw
panicking.
this in a tavern once. Let's sit them up like they're just sleeping and nobody will notice.
They have the jaws of the blood.
Yeah,
the jaws are terrible.
Yeah, well, didn't you put a mask on, Donnie? Let's do it again.
I don't have extra masks.
No, look, I mean, no
You put them somewhere else.
I sit one up in the corner, and I sit the other one up, and I like lean it on his shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god. What?
This is great, don't worry.
I can tell that those are two.
No, I've got a better idea. I'll take the cask of ale out of the bag, I'll hold it, and I'll just start pouring ale all over them.
Why would they be in here drinking? They're guards on duty.
They're terrible guards. They make horrible life choices. They're in the wrong line of work. I'll take 2 chalices and I'll throw it in their laps. Cool. Now I need you to vomit on them.
I can't vomit.
Do it right now. Put your finger down your throat and puke on these guards.
Make an intimidation check, Grog.
17! Puke on those fucking guards!
16.
Vomit on those bitches.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And that's going to be gift forever. Make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh my god.
Natural 20.
Oh my god.
About 30 seconds of you trying to gag yourself past before the shop owner comes back with these beautifully packaged bundle of healing potions. All right, so
1 second. 1 second.
So I'm really sorry. These two gentlemen obviously have been off their ass. They came in here smelling of booze, looking for like something to make them feel better. I don't know, and they just passed out in your corner. Is there someone you know that we could call? I really hate just leaving them
make a
here.
deception check.
9.
Oh yeah, the audio messes up with this.
Oh
part.
yeah.
Slowly hands out this
Oh yeah, it's only
really
in the
nice
left.
bundle.
Yeah.
And it has like a little bow on it, and it's wrapped, and he hands it out to you, and he goes, "Please, take this. And never come back. Please,
For the rest of the day.
ever again. Your presence has brought me no end of pain. Just go."
Obviously, we have gotten the better end of this deal.
I think that is true, absolutely.
Do you still have the...
Go!
We should go. We should leave.
All right. Thank you for your business. Good day to you. Let's go.
So
Oh my god.
So that is one example of just the antics you can get up to in D&D, but also just how hilarious and amazing Critical Role is. Ugh.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. There are so many more moments like this though that are just good character building moments where it's like raw, like heavy, like good emotion and stuff. And then also scenes where you get like moments where you're genuinely like nervous. Like you're genuinely nervous for these characters.
Yep.
It's
and at
really
the same
good.
time, because this is D&D, right? One of the things, like, okay, Konosuba is basically what every D&D group is actually like.
Yes.
Right? You know,
Konosuba is the perfect example of how dumb and ridiculous every D&D
gets,
party
right?
is, really.
And things like you know, like Overlord, for instance, or you know, or Goblin Slayer or whatever are more like the serious takes on D&D, right?
Sure.
Thing is, Critical Role basically takes the comedy aspects of Konosuba, but then also a lot of the serious moments that you would expect in like a traditional like legit serious story, and it combines them amazingly well. And in the same way that in Konosuba, nothing ever goes according to plan, right for them.
Yes,
that's basically just a mantra for D&D as just emergent behavior. It's not something that they like try and make happen necessarily,
right?
But because the DM will like present some story or whatever to the characters can still decide to do whatever they want, right? It's not the power of the story isn't residing entirely in one hand, right?
Yes.
So you'll get things where there will be one thing that's happening, and then because they decide to do certain things, it goes off in a vastly different direction, and it's amazing.
Yep.
Like there was a point in one of the episodes of Campaign 2 when I was watching it live, because I started with Campaign 2, where they're doing a mission, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a mission, right? And it's a mission, and it's going great. But then it starts to go very, very badly.
Yep.
And the entire direction of the campaign from that point forward shifts.
Yep.
Because of basically just how stuff happened one day.
Yep.
And it was amazing. Like, watching it live was an absolute delight because I had no idea where it was going to go.
Yeah.
But you know that they're still going to do a good job with it. Like, a lot of times in stories, I feel like the twists that come end up being kind of like, okay, you're trying too hard, this is jarring, this is whatever, right?
Right.
Because the logic of the story ends up breaking down. But because it's a bunch of people just sort of like trying to figure out what they're going to do and it usually going very badly, right? It is one of the best things ever.
It's a joy. Hey, Bloodhog Flock with the 500 bits. Thank you so much. All right, guys, I'm going to leave now and spend it with my family. Have a great stream. Thank you.
Take care, man.
Take care. Yes, have a good time with your family, and thank you so much for all the bits. Oh, my God, bro.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, like, Aqua has amazing stats, but I guess her player only rolls natural ones. Oh, but see, that's the thing. What I love about the Aqua character is that she actually, like, role plays, like, a character
Oh, yeah.
that everyone loves to hate.
Yep.
Like, everyone loves how much we hate Aqua.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we enjoy her uselessness. In an actual party, like, the amount of collaborative, I would say, cohesion within the story for the people not to get so upset at the player for sticking to their character that they, like, you know, get mad at them out of game.
Yep.
Even though Kazuma is the one that's probably the most, like, frustrated with her, he actually, you know, still somewhat enjoys her presence.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that kind of stuff, it's well, like what we showed you here, that's just the one little taste, right? And that's the thing, is that you have this amazingly vast story that you can sink your teeth into if you want to.
Yes.
But if you want just more of like a casual, you know, relationship, sort of like a, you know, more of like the akin to like a one core anime kind of deal.
Right.
You can just watch the clips.
Yeah,
and the clips are amazing.
There's entire channels out there dedicated just to giving you the TLDR of each campaign session, so you can follow it along by essentially reading it. It's not really reading, but it's the closest thing to that.
Yep.
And then you end up getting this sprawling, you know, just kind of adventure epic of a family of characters that struggles and, you know, goes through their daily life, what have you, figuring stuff out.
Yep.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stuff, but it's a lot of fun because every once in a while you'll be like, okay, and I've seen this before, and then we'll go into wait a minute, what's Travis doing?
Yeah.
Wait, what's Liam? Did you just you just spun off. Like, Jacob and I love Critical Role so much, we get into the memes of Critical Role.
Oh yeah.
So what the thing is with this is that we will love the moments where the characters and the people role-playing the characters, it's so hard to separate the two sometimes, will just decide, you know what, I'm going to be an instigator. I'm going to bring in a thing out of left field that is totally good for my character, and everyone else is going to go like, oh god, we have to like shift and adjust around this thing.
Right.
And every once in a while, one of those will come up, and you'll just watch everyone like hold with bated breath, because this is a huge part of their lives now. They're really invested in this. Like, here's a great example. You know, when you watch that reaction channel and they're not really that invested in the anime, so they're just kind of like, yo, wow, okay. Like, some people aren't as invested in their D&D experience, so they can have that whole thing there.
And everyone has their own pace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Critical Role are like the people that, like, this is their anime. They're reacting to it, and it's like we're all making it together. So when something exciting happens for a character, other people get excited, like, what about this person's thing? And then you get that same kind of, I would say, reaction channel experience of like, oh, I'm vicariously getting hyped as Travis starts to squeal like a little kid about like this cool development with so-and-so's character. And it's it's fantastic.
Not in Jester escaping from the church.
Yes.
Absolutely. Or Molly Mock
putting dicks over everything, defacing the whole place.
Or Molly Mock trying to sneak into a hospital. Or, you know, the Pike teaching Grog to read, you know, or whatever. Like, all these different things that are just wonderful. And the thing is that, like, I feel like in a lot of ways, their D&D experience, it is very different from the traditional D&D experience, because they're professional voice actors and things like that. And so this is like the cream of the crop stuff right there, right? But the general just excitement that you get from playing D&D, I feel like that's fairly normal. Just refined and condensed, so that that's almost all of what it is.
Because they have been doing this for a few years.
Because they've been doing this for a few years, and you know, and so they're very good at what they do, right?
Yeah.
But like, the whole idea of the self-insert character, haven't you ever wished that you could be the main character in the story and be making the stories and making the decisions and things like that? All the BioWare RPGs that are out there and things like that, it's basically just all started from D&D, right?
Yep.
Their first real example of doing it with like Knights of the Old Republic.
That was not their first.
Oh, that wasn't their first? Okay, well, whatever. It was the first for me. It was the first one I saw.
Your first experience
with
a classic RPG was KOTOR, yes.
But it's basically just them. They literally just took 3.5 D&D and ripped it into a video game, right? And gave it a Star Wars skin.
Right.
You can do that.
Yeah. No, what it was Divinity.
Oh yeah.
Divinity was inspired by Baldur's Gate, which was the first BioWare game that they did.
Right, and
Baldur's Gate is a
literally
D&D campaign. It is literally a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I don't know
It's all
my
good,
history,
chat. He's not a video game person.
Not as much.
Yeah.
But the point is that basically that whole idea of the self-insert main character that's done so badly so often in anime, that's what D&D is made to do, but then you make it so that it's the entire main cast is all the self-inserts, right? And then they all get along together, and it's amazing.
Because you're not greedy for spotlight or what have you. You're excited when another person gets to spotlight their character and go, up to the forefront and go, all right, here's my moment to shine. And then they pass the ball off to someone else, and then it keeps going back and forth. And then sometimes all of them somehow perfectly coincide to shine in some brilliant moment.
Right.
And those just stay with you forever.
And in the case of Critical Role, this is a bunch of people that are so good at drama, that they know that dance down pat. Like they work with each other like it's a song. Like it's wonderful. Oh.
Hey, yeah, exactly. If possible, you feed the spotlight brilliantly, yes. Because you have another person who is the DM who actually ends up platforming a lot of the PCs for specific moments. And he basically is like, I'm just going to build this intricate designed platform, and now step upon it.
But
player character.
Larkin?
But where is Larkin?
Well,
nice.
and like
Nice.
Travis, for instance, is one of my favorite players at the group because of the group because like they're all amazing, right? But Travis in particular, he'll get so excited, and he's this big guy, right? But he'll get so excited about all the stuff that's happening, and he'll totally take a back seat in order to like make someone else like be even more awesome at what they're doing. Like he's basically like Speedwagon in the D&D game of just constantly hyping everyone else up, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. We've also like played the game and other kind of tabletop RPGs ourselves, and we all have our like specific moments where you look back on them and go, oh, that's something I'm never going to forget.
Right.
And I think that that's maybe something that's really special too. So when you get someone, when you get someone into that anime that you really like, but the main reason, like the main reason you want them to get into this anime is that they can have the same build up you did to that moment. To that moment in the anime.
Yeah.
An example for this, I would say, that's like really been impactful for me is in Haikyuu, when you basically have the teams and they're all like going together. Now we're having wins and losses for Karasuno, what have you. But you have that build up towards season 3, and a certain character gets some amazing development, and it's seeded over the course of the 2 first seasons. But you want people to watch Haikyuu to get the full experience, right? But you also want them to watch it so that at that moment, at that brilliant moment that you never forget the emotion of, they can have that too, and you get that revitalized, vicarious enjoyment of as well, but it's together.
Right.
That is the D&D experience, I would say, but also specifically with Critical Role, with, times 100 more content, actually. So you end up getting times 100 more moments like that.
Yep. Yeah. MHA Todoroki versus Midoriya. Yep. That's another great example. Yeah. It's.
Real D&D story. My player. I want to walk on water and sneak past the Kraken. Me. Roll stealth at disadvantage. Player. Double nat 20. Me. What do I do now?
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
There's little things like that. Like there was a game that I was playing with Caleb way back in the day where he had like these Sith Lords come in and like wreck shop, right? And we were like not even Force users, right? So it was just like there are these gods that are here, and what are we gonna do? And because of some ridiculously lucky rolls at exactly the right times, it wasn't even the lucky rolls, but it was just that it was exactly when they needed to be, and stacked on top of each other.
Some 3,400, these 4,720 to 1 or something.
Right.
Like. Never tell me the odds, and Jacob just charges in there.
And
Leroy Jenkins
and manages to somehow kill them because it's like, okay, I'm dead anyway, but it happened, right? And then suddenly it's like, okay, now
the whole campaign shifted because of a scene that was supposed to be a cut scene where they basically get kind of shunted away from a specific thing. Jacob just comes in and decimates basically the Kobayashi Maru and just goes, Yeah, that happened. And I'm like, all right, suddenly the campaign is completely different now. Completely different.
And things like that happen. Like in a normal story, you wouldn't let something like that happen, right?
Exactly.
Because you need these main characters to stick around to be bad guys and stuff.
Right.
And even if you have a very, very grounded, like, discovery-based storytelling, a lot like Hunter x Hunter or something, for instance, right? There's still this idea that if something too ridiculous happens, you won't believe it because you're saying that feels contrived. That wouldn't be the most likely thing to happen. Therefore, it shouldn't be in the story, kind of a thing.
Right.
Because a fluke like that, you shouldn't be banking your entire story on it. But because in the case of D&D, you have this little 20-sided die that determines the fate of the universe, right?
Yeah.
Then you can have things like that, and you don't need to worry about it because, well, that's just how it happened. The odds weren't good at all of that happening, but this one time, that just is how it went.
Another example of this, I would say, in Hunter x Hunter, that's a really great kind of example of just the D&D party just deciding, nah, I'm not about that, was when they're going towards the end of Heaven's Arena and Gon fights Hisoka and all that. And at the end, they're like, they've been teasing this whole thing of if you get this many wins, you get to be a floor master. And Gon and Killua are just like, no, let's not do that. Let's just go on to meet everyone in York New City. There are parties that would have been like, nah, I want some money. I want that fat stacks. I'm gonna go and continue this tournament arc and end up like winning the Floor Master thing. And then they don't end up going to that whole thing there. That's basically where the party actually decides the story. The core cast of characters are doing things based along the collaborative, motivational hodgepodge of them all moving around together. It's really special once you get into the flow of that with a group of people.
And in the case of like the Heaven's Arena thing for Hunter x Hunter, maybe the DM in that case was really pissed that they built up this entire thing.
Yes.
And then the players ignored it.
Yep.
Right? They went a completely different direction. And it's like, why? I had this whole NPC set up. He had a backstory. He had a family. He had people that loved him and cared about him. And now I won't get to tell that to you because you decided that, you would rather like go to the bagel stand or something, right?
Right.
Like that is the kind of stuff that happens. And it is...
it's brilliant.
The joy of it is almost
Matt rips up his notes. Exactly. He's just like, well, just forget all that. Like there was an example of this in a recent, not recent, but in campaign 2, there was a part where they were going to have a ship-to-ship combat in Critical Role. And Matt forgot about the strength of a certain spell that you can use in D&D. And now all these characters are basically prepping to man the ship, fire the cannons, and board and everything. And the other ship's getting ready. It's like pirates versus our main characters. It's like, let's go. And then one of the characters who's got the ability to control water basically just goes, you know what? I'm going to create a giant wave and just
flip the ship
capsize
over.
their ship.
And he's like, wait, can you do that? And the rules specifically say, with this spell...
With this certain circumstances
that they had like
you.
just recently gotten access to because of leveling up or whatever. It's like, okay, you can do that, but it's a 25% chance. And he's like, well, okay. He rolls.
And the whole combat just was completely
avoided. And then suddenly it became, instead of a let's have this ship battle, it's okay, they flipped over. All right, blow the crap out of them.
How are we going to be? How good are we going to be to these pirates? Are we going to let them all live? Are we going to? Are we going to? Help any of them get to shore? What have you? Like stuff. Questions like that come to play. So even when you have something that could be like a mistake story-wise, because it's all based around improv and collaborative storytelling, it ends up being a positive rather than a negative. I think that's maybe something that I'd say another thing that we found to be very attractive about this style of storytelling is that you don't have to have everything along a predetermined path because the characters create the story. And here's the other thing, like, these characters don't have to stick around forever. They can die.
Yeah.
And that can be a really that can be a really impactful thing when it's like, oh, right. But like nothing can actually happen to them because this is, a collaborative story thing and they all need to be well, wait.
Are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that?
You sure about that? You sure that's a factor in?
And I'll just tell you, like, the actual like legit character drama that can come about from when things go wrong. Like people make mistakes. Like the actual person role playing the character screws up a thing. And it spirals in out of control into something even worse. It's like,
and also with all the quiet moments between characters, and this is where Laura Bailey in particular is like a goddess, because it'll be in some random transition scene, right? And then she'll just be like, hey Ford, do you ever wonder about, blah 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 blah, and suddenly it's just like everyone is just like, my heart. Like it's kind of ridiculous.
Best improv I had to do was when a character openly provoked Strahd in the middle of the city, ended with Strahd chasing the players and unleashing his minions over the place, all over town.
And I'll bet that was absolutely unforgettable for your players.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even if it basically took a lot of like the very, scripted stuff that you have in that D&D adventure module, of being like, okay, this is how it will go, this is what you do. All of a sudden, you know what? Nope, he's chasing him through the town. There you go.
And Ricketts, I never thought I'd be sad of a player death until I lost my 16th level halfling sorcerer that I used for years in our campaign. Wow.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Caleb, was there any time you ruined or messed up a campaign when you kind of forgot a detail that disrupts or contradicts the pre-established story? So I DM'd a Star Wars campaign for a good chunk of time. That's probably been my only claim to being a decent DM, because I just did a bunch of one-shots and mini campaigns that were just kind of goofy. But this is one where I tried to put in a lot of thought, and I created basically a future Star Wars world where the Hutts ruled the galaxy, and it was a little bit, different and stuff. And there were a lot of things where I would just mess up. I would kind of forget things. And I would notice when the players would kind of give me the look of like, I noticed that. But because it's a collaborative thing, they would just kind of run with it. And maybe they would subtly reinforce it by being like, see, I used to think it was this, so maybe it's actually this. Maybe I was wrong about the thing there. And it's
basically giving the
kind of them DM a little bit of grace of being like, we get it. It's a tough gig. We'll just roll with it and stuff. So that has happened. But I think the only time where I really screwed up was there was a moment where I basically ended up becoming that that gif or that scene where in Wallace and Gromit you have a Gromit, the dog, and he's on the train, and he's got train tracks in his box there, and he's laying it out in front of the train as it's moving, and it's just this goofy, hilarious scene. But if you think about what it means to be a DM, it is literally that. Because sometimes your players are just like, we're gonna go this way, and you're like, and usually it's slightly your fault because you end up emphasizing the wrong thing. So there was an example in my Star Wars campaign where I emphasized an NPC a little bit too much. And the players were like, oh, this character is very important to the story. And I'm like, crap. They're not. So then I kind of backpedal a little bit, and I'm like, but see, I'll make another character more attractive. But they're like, no, this is big. We need to focus on this. And I'm like, So I'm like literally like scribbling out like behind my screen, like, okay, I'm gonna put this little thing in there. Remember this thing here. And then like anytime they'd come back to that scene, they'd be like, or that area, they'd be like, oh, we need to like interact with this person there. And be like, oh no.
Who was that character? I'm curious.
Yeah, I have to go back and look at my notes.
Oh,
but I have basically this moment where you just see a bunch of drivel of just like, this character said this character said this. And I almost basically just took the things that the players were deeming to be maybe interesting, or their theories about why this character was interesting, and basically made them into that.
Yeah.
So the characters ended up creating the character.
Right.
The players ended up creating the character that would end up being
the Mercer Campaign 2 chair. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then there's like one of my favorite ones, even though this totally drove you up a wall, is during this like Hutt dystopia, Star Wars campaign. We end up sneaking into basically this like cabal meeting for all like the Illuminati higher ups.
Right. So there's this Illuminati higher ups meeting.
Right.
And we're like, oh, we are in a den of evil. This is really bad. Like there were the bad people, and we're like mercenaries. Like their group was basically like,
we're kind of sketch,
kind of sketchy. But these people were bad, and they're discussing like deals and stuff like that, and how they're gonna deal with this new like threat to their organization, what have you. And these guys are just a bunch of normies walking around being like,
just observing
this is good information. We're gonna take this in. And Jacob, basically the mad child, the wild child.
So I asked Caleb. I was like, "Well, do we still have our gear? Like, was there like a weapons check?" And he's like, "No. He's like, you get the feeling that this place is so like well secured and stuff that like it doesn't matter if you have weapons because it's sort of like this just threat of imminent death if you were to do anything." I'm like, "Okay, gotcha." And
he's like, I want to stealthily start deploying like bombs.
Yeah, because my character had a bunch of explosives that he had tried to use to basically like capture, like, you know, cut off the escape of like someone that we were after, and rolled really well on all the stuff too.
All the stealth checks and stuff.
All the stealth checks to basically avoid detection, and you know, blew up half the casino. So basically, instigated galactic warfare and killed off like 30% of the leaders of the factions
so like the way it was based was around a faction conflict of sorts, and you basically had a moment where they were all coming together and basically just deciding we're going to delete this faction from existence. It was like 10% of like, you know, economic flow for the galaxy. Like, we're just going to subsume them into ours and we'll just distribute them to the groups here. Jacob's just like, all these people are bad, and I have he's like, I have a chip on my shoulder against society and the way it's run here, and I hate the Hutts, so I'm just gonna be a terrorist here, and I'm just gonna blow up everything. And the thing is that it built the actual influence and or reputation of this other threat that they were discussing, who was a legitimate terrorist, like an actual threat to them,
because they clearly thought that, well, it was this other terrorist that had done
they attributed Jacob's attack to the person they were dealing with there, and they're like, oh my god, we actually were discovered here. And like, because of the way that they disguised themselves getting in there, they were able to figure things out and stuff. And the party had no idea that Jacob was the one that blew up the place. So for the longest time, they believed also that the attack was done by this whole group here.
And my character just kept quiet about it. You know?
And I was just like, oh my god, I was not.
And in some ways, I shouldn't have done that, because that was kind of a mean move to do.
Yeah, right? And it was something that was quite out of character for you in terms of the.
Given that I had never bombed a public building before.
You had very much I care about life in some ways.
Well,
but like
certain lives.
Yeah, certain lives. But he basically changed alignment like in the middle of the whole thing.
There was a crossroads and a choice that was made there. But the thing is that was something that happened that forever changed the tone of the campaign because of that one decision that Caleb never would have accounted for, and never would have happened in a regular story, because it would have changed everything so much, even if it ended up being awesome, right? And that's the kind of stuff, but then like times 10 that you can get in Critical Role, because they're all pro voice actors, right? They live and breathe this stuff, so when there are opportunities for stuff like that, they do it, and they do it in good ways, right? Not in a lot of times the less disruptive ways for you know, everyone involved.
Put your glasses on. The group was really cool about it, because they were very good about not metagaming surrounding the fact that they knew, the people knew. Everyone is in the same room at the same table.
This was happening.
They're just like, oh my god. They're like, don't fail your stealth checks at least. And they're all like,
we'll abandon you. You're dead.
Like, they're basically saying like, if this happens, like, we're all disavowing him, right? And they're like, for sure. So when this whole thing goes down and stuff, I had to basically do a good job of making sure that they didn't, metagame too much of like, hey Jacob, where were you when this happened? And kind of keep that in check and what have you. But it's some ridiculously funny stuff that can come about just by people who want to add a specific element into a story, but have to figure out a way to make it jive with the group. It's a skill. It's something that people develop. And in Critical Role, you get to see it at its peak many times, and over and over and over again.
And as far as like, and one other thing is that because like as far as D&D goes, because you're all playing it together, it's not a memory of, do you remember that time my character did that? It's, you remember the time when we were in the cantina and there was the Cabal there, and then I blew everything up, but you guys didn't know it. You know, like that's how it ends up being, because it's directly tapping into your imagination.
Yeah, people have a lot of things that they will specifically have long-term memory attached to because it meant something to them emotionally. An example of this was one of the players for the campaign, because I had to quit the Hut campaign because I was burnt out. I couldn't keep it going, basically. And I was also struggling with figuring out a way to engage the players properly. And I was just a new DM in general. One of the players constantly mentions anytime I see him, he's like, hey, are you ever going to pick that back up again? That was one of my favorite tabletop RPG experiences I've ever had. I miss my character. I was just like, this is the weird thing, though, y'all. This character, the person who was playing them and stuff, I thought they were the least interested in the whole experience there.
Yeah.
And they were actually the one that still has most of the positive memories about that. Yeah.
Yep. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. In D&D memories, you do all that, not just your character. Well said, Cychronia. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then in the case of like Critical Role, you're watching people do this and it's so amazing. And the whole thing of like, for instance, the bombing the casino and everything. Well, think about it. That like in a story, if you're making a story like that, maybe that's a great idea. Have one of the characters do something that completely throws things off because for some reason, and then you kind of, explain what it is later, you know, and then suddenly that's some crazy twist that could be tied into some deeper character motivations that you didn't know about before.
Right. And because you don't have to carry it the whole way.
Right.
You can just be the one that starts the first 15% of it and adds another 10% later.
Right.
And the other 70% or 75% is all the other players.
Right.
Or the DM as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that kind of like outside the box thinking is something that I would definitely not have to the extent that I do without D&D and Critical Role and things like that in particular. So.
Ricketts, do you guys watch any other D&D shows? High Rollers is pretty great. DM by Mark Humes. I watched Titan's Grave, which was a fun thing that Will Wheaton did, and it was kind of just a little mini series. And I don't think he ever continued it, but it was like a fun way to do the tabletop RPG experience. It's in a different kind of system of sorts, but the thing I really liked about it was every character had their own specific secrets, and it was about character interactions bringing out said secrets over the course of a small little runtime.
And that was actually how we got into Critical Role, because we got into Critical Role
because Laura Bailey
and she was on that show. And like, if you want to see Laura Bailey as a femme Edward Elric, basically, talking to Yuri Lowenthal, aka Simone from Gurren Lagann, you can do that. Right. And so no, have not seen Acquisitions Incorporated.
Mark
Holmes guested as
I know
Kaliana.
about Acquisitions Incorporated, though. That's pretty cool. They got their own module or their own book in the Wizards of the Coast productions for D&D. Is pretty legit.
I wonder if Jacob ever remembers doing the things that his characters do in Battle Lines. In some ways, yes.
Yeah.
In other ways, no, because I kind of pick apart them and reconstruct them later.
Right.
Whereas
so
like in
D&D,
editing
afterwards.
Exactly. I feel like in D&D, because it's improv, because you do something and then you do it, and there's no going back and fixing it or editing it or changing it. You have to live with the consequences of it. That's one of the things that makes it feel that much more real, because you are making decisions in the moment as your character.
And they have influence. So one of the things that in RPGs I always sought for was RPGs that have meaningful choices with regards to your character.
Yeah.
And a lot of RPGs don't actually do that.
Nope.
They do basically this curve thing where it starts off here and it branches out. And then everything branches back into one ending. There's not really any choice. The branches you take to get to that ending are sometimes different, maybe. But a lot of the RPGs that, get into that thing where your choices really matter, they end up actually being harder to make, so they end up suffering in other aspects of their presentation, so it doesn't really work. But with basically RPGs, D&D, and tabletop RPGs in general, you can have no idea where the story is going to end up at, even though there's a DM that is sometimes frantically trying to make sure that some aspect of their vision still ends up on the, on the gaming table, which is something that's a nice skill to have. That's a pretty impressive skill to have, because you don't want to, force your players to do only certain things, but you also want to give them engaging high moments that feel like, whoa, are we in like a Lord of the Rings TV show right now? No, we're just in a group with a bunch of friends playing D&D.
Right.
So
I have not played any of the Lord of the Rings campaign settings, but I know of them, and I would be interested in doing something like that. We started with Star Wars.
Yeah, we started with Star Wars.
The Saga Edition first, then we went back to Revised Core, and then we went forward to the Fantasy Flight game system, which is what the one that we were talking about is in.
Oh, I've heard about Swan Song. Yeah, it's an RPG show with an amazing story and character moments. Thanks for reminding me about that, Ricketts. Yeah, someone brought it up when I was talking about older anime that were D&D inspired and stuff like that.
Blue Jonah, I prepped 3 dungeons recently and the players ran past all of them. Yeah, because that happens sometimes. In the most recent D&D session that I had, the DM prepped all this stuff for doing this equivalent kind of a thing of investigation and dungeon, and whatnot and stuff.
Yes.
And we spent the entire time basically shopping and then fighting in a sand pit, like in a Fight Club pit at the local tavern.
Right.
And against each other. Like it wasn't even often against NPCs.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was tons of fun.
Yeah, I've heard of Pillars of Eternity for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that basically has the whole CR cast is just the main characters.
Yeah.
Or at least for Pillars of Eternity 2. But yeah. And so to bring it all back, even though it goes like we've gone a lot into like just D&D in general and stuff.
Yeah.
Critical Role is D&D done almost unrealistically good.
Yeah, like I'd say it's a bit unrealistic in terms of you wanting to create that thing yourself.
Right.
Because it requires 6-7 people minimum of that caliber.
Right.
And you're looking all the other work behind the scenes.
Exactly. You're looking at them having already played D&D for 6-7 years. Yeah. And like together, which is a big deal.
Yes.
And then also all the drama, and whatnot that they've done for their work.
Right.
But the thing is that kind of stuff can happen. Right. Yeah. Even if it doesn't happen in the same way as Critical Role does it.
Yeah. And all this coming full circle to us, reacting to animated shows and stuff from Japan. Critical Role has gotten so big, y'all, that they made a Kickstarter to do an animated mini, 2-episode kind of thing for their show, for Critical Role. And the Kickstarter blew up and got so big that the mainstream news was freaking out because they broke like every conceivable record in that area.
Yep.
And now they're going to do a full-on animated
10-episode animated series.
Yeah, animated series for it.
Yep.
And if it does well successfully on the first one, who knows? They might make more of it. Like this is something that's ridiculous. This is something that's ridiculous to the point of absurdity, because when you think about what the numbers did, at least for the Kickstarter, that's crazy. Right. But then when you think that they started with just a group of people playing this game in their home or what have you.
A bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors playing Dungeons & Dragons.
And then they rolled over and combined with Twitch, and then they ended up splitting off and making their own company, and now they're doing comics, and then they're doing like all kinds of other spin-off stuff, and now they're basically leading the charge of bringing D&D to the mainstream people that don't have any interest in that whole kind of thing. It's basically
they have animated OPs for like they have an animated OP for campaign 2 now.
Yes.
Like think about that for a second. Like full anime style with original music and great animation and everything, showcasing all the characters and action and choreography and everything. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no big deal. That was just something they casually just put together.
Oh, have you watched the YouTube video of Matt announcing to the group that they were going to start playing on Twitch? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Scanbo. Oh yeah. Like if you're wanting clips, right?
Yes.
You can pretty much if you watch enough of them, they'll just be in your recommended thing, and then you can just watch them.
Yeah. Critical Role highlights on YouTube will send you down a rabbit trail for weeks.
It'll keep you entertained for a good long time. But in addition to the animated one that we showed you guys, going through there are a bunch of character tributes for the first campaign. Now, you don't necessarily want to do those if you want to maintain spoiler free, right? But those are great compilations of the first campaign, and then you can just go through the second campaign. It's fantastic. The first campaign is a lot less like high production value than the second campaign because they're getting things figured out. And there's a player in the beginning that ends up not being the best, and but they end up leaving eventually. But it is absolutely fantastic. And if you're up for the journey and trek into the hundreds of hours of content that's there, it's absolutely wonderful. But if you just want to start with the clips, that's totally good too. That's what we did.
Belu Tima, I think the D20 rolling and stuff like that isn't necessary, because in some ways they can maybe poke some meta fun jokes at it. But if anything, because they have to turn it into an animated thing where all that improv stuff actually ends up getting like showcased as prepared acting and stuff like that, you can't actually have it be too fourth wall breaking. If anything, it'll just be a thing where people who look up this will see plastered on the front of everything from the Twitch, famous, Critical Role D&D stream, all that. Then they'll go, oh, that's what this is from? Oh my gosh.
Like the show will probably end up being more of like an adaptation than anything else. Yeah. Where there will probably be a lot of things changed because they have to fit it into, traditional episode format. Right. And like so a lot of the more long form conversations will have to get truncated and, cut down to size and everything. But like it's it's gonna be good.
There's gonna be a lot of good stuff in there. The animated series is something that we are definitely going to watch, and hell, we'll probably react to it. We almost definitely will. Like we are really, really excited for it. But doesn't have to be fourth wall breaking, but put in references and such would be enough. I think there will be really subtle ones in there. But the thing is, I don't think they'll ever reference dice. I think it'll be more of a thing of where you see them and it's like, I'm going to do an awesome. And then they
clearly roll a nat 1 or a nat 20. They clearly
rolled a nat 1 behind the scenes. And that's why something that should have been awesome ends up being a complete failure. Like that kind of stuff is probably what you're going to see.
I can't wait to see Scanbo. Scanbo animated is going to be amazing.
That's going to be amazing. Yes, Briarwood Arc, yes.
Can we get a Domekano D&D crossover?
Oh God. That's an example of where the character backstories of the party were not shared before the campaign started.
No, it's where the DM has a very specific setting, and it's like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. It's like, oh no.
The most awkward, like, in-party romance,
Oh, remember to shop at Gilmore's Glorious Goods. That's right.
Yes, Blue Nautilus.
Gilmore is amazing. And
yes, I'm Gilmore. Yes. Gilmore is a sexy, sultry fellow. Very, very wonderful
and
guy.
Pumat Soul.
Yes.
Pumat Soul is amazing.
And I'm touched by the sun every day.
Respectfully,
yes. That's the other thing is I love playing as a character. Like I love that whole thing of just, yes, I'm going to turn on this voice and then suddenly I will be a new character. Yes, that's one of my favorite things to do. Matt Mercer is amazing at that.
Oh yeah,
he is so good
whether
at
he's
that.
Victor, Pumat, Orly, Gilmore,
whoever.
Like anybody, like it's
so good at
so incredible. It's absolutely wonderful. Or Trinket, like all the times he voices Trinket.
Yes.
Love you.
Yes.
Oh, it's great.
Go f yourself.
Yeah, Kiri.
Random question: are you interested in reacting to the new Dark Crystal series? I know about it. I wasn't I didn't grow up on the original and stuff like that, so it's not really a precious thing to me. But I know a lot of people that are very excited about it.
We need more duck barbarians. That's right. That's right.
Oh man. So basically, it's Friends, the TV show, where everyone almost has sex with everyone.
I think they're talking about
I think they're talking about
Domekano
as a D&D thing. Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty
Domekano
ridiculous.
is the sort of D&D campaign where all the players need to read and sign a consent form during session 0.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh,
wait,
boy.
no, haven't you? Why would we do that? No, wait, no, we're not masochists. I mean, not that much of.
No.
Like I only rewatch Violet Garden episode 10 like every 6 months, you know, like I don't like feeling pain that often.
And if you wanted to, you just rewatch the finale of Made in Abyss, you know?
That actually I feel like has a lot of other things in there, you know. It's not like all
it's got
suffering
some ups and
what
downs.
have you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drunk reaction, shots per clang.
We die.
See, I think like that would be a funny like Patreon goal, but other than that,
we'd have to do like
be a
sips of
meme.
wine per clang.
No, we just do it drunk, you know, just like, all right, just because the clang, clang, clang is just that'd be too much.
Yeah, we'd die.
Fights can be adapted into the animated Critical Role since each round is technically 6 seconds.
Yes, that will be able to work.
It'll work a lot better.
Except for the times where like they go to say something and it's like, yeah, no, that definitely wouldn't work in a 6-second round with everybody saying that, you know. But yeah, yep.
Yeah, Bellutima, we're not really gonna do that seasonal like test the waters kind of reaction idea. That's
yeah,
that was something that was a cool idea, and we thought about it and we were like, nah.
Talking is a free action. That's right.
Right, you just talk while you're shooting your crossbow bolt at the random, you know,
okay,
monster.
Here's one of the other things, right? So Scanlan, Sam Riegel, right?
Yes.
He plays a bard, and he basically sets the standard for bards, like, because the whole idea of bards is kind of ridiculous, but they're supposed to use music and charm and, you know, and whatnot, and that's how they do their magic.
Right.
So anytime Scanlan gives like inspiration out or casts a spell or anything,
he'll sings a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, a little limerick or whatever, and it's incredible.
Yeah,
it is absolutely incredible. But yeah,
have you ever heard of Order of the Stick? Another D&D work that broke Kickstarter records like crazy at one point. 21 times the goal. It's an epic scale loving parody of fantasy and storytelling tropes in general. The name quote of 4 tropes off the top of my head. Okay, cool, Cyclone.
Nice.
Yeah, I had never heard of the Order of the Stick. Thanks for the.
I have heard of what's it though? There was an anime that basically came about just from transcripts of people playing a D&D campaign back in like first edition D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was called for the name of me or for the life of me. But yeah.
Okay. Wait, Lunar, am I the only one who imagines Jack Black playing Master Exploder in Tenacious D when someone talks about bards and battles in D&D? Yes, that's amazing. That would be like the rock and roll like older guy kind of bard. That's brilliant. Yes.
No, not the 80s D&D cartoon. There's another one that's an actual anime. It's like Chronicles of the whatever or something like that. It has some sort of general fantasy kind of name.
Oh yeah, Daiki told me about that one too.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Record of the Lotus War.
Yes,
that's right.
One.
Yep.
Yes, thanks, Not Pigeons.
Yeah, all came from a D&D campaign. So
Yep. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Critical Role, you should check it out, especially since there's the animated series that's starting production.
Yep.
And if you can't go through the first campaign completely because it's, you know, so long and you want to start with some higher production quality, start with campaign 2.
Yep.
It's absolutely fantastic.
There's no spoilers for campaign 1 really in it. So
right. And because it's something where the characters were intentionally made for this, right? You can tell that a lot more effort was put into them, whereas like in campaign 1 it's more of like the traditional sort of vanilla fantasy tropes, and they do amazing things with those characters, right? But like with campaign 2 it's like, okay, they definitely put a lot of time and thought into thinking about this is going to be for a show that, you know, like they had 100,000 people tune in live for the first episode of campaign 2, like live on Twitch. That's ridiculous, insane.
Yeah. That's actually a good question. I will be the Boshi. What's a good introduction to D&D? Is there a video I can watch about it? I've been quite lost in this podcast. I don't know anything about D&D or Critical Role. That's totally fine. I would say there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that are good introductions to it. If anything, I feel like you almost want to have it be shown to you first before you end up getting like the technical definition of it,
right?
Because in some ways people can get a little bit too pigeonholed about what this whole thing is.
Yep.
And I feel like just seeing people do it
is a better example
than that.
Yeah, and there's a YouTuber named Matt Colville who has some cool introductory to D&D videos.
Yes. Matt Colville's YouTube channel is fantastic if you want to learn about D&D, but if also you want to play D&D. I would say you don't have to want to play D&D in order to enjoy D&D, and that is basically the internet culture's benefit these days.
And one other thing I will say is that if you try out D&D or you see people playing D&D and for some reason it's just awful, it could be that it's just not for you. But one of the things that it could also be is that you're not playing with the right group, because in the case of D&D, because it's so based around the people that you're playing with, if you have someone who's just an asshole, it can completely ruin the experience. So if you're playing with people and you're like, maybe this isn't my thing, try looking for other groups too, because that can make all the difference in the world.
For sure. But that's the end of the podcast, y'all.
Yep.
Got a lot of stuff in here, but this is basically our like anime review, but for Critical Role. Like we're shilling it. We really like it. We'd love to talk more about it with you if you're on the Discord. We have a Tabletop RPGs channel and stuff like that where we can talk about all kinds of stuff for that whole thing there. So leave a follow if you want to stay up to date on all our future Twitch streams. We always stream at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow we're doing a One Piece manga review. We'll be reading out the next volume. On Thursday, Jacob's doing gaming. On Friday, I'm doing gaming. And then back again on Monday, doing more podcast stuff there. But hope to see you all there in the Discord or in a future stream. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time. Battle Lines D&D when? That would be so amazing. Like, I've thought about it.
I mean, it's the perfect party.
Yeah.
You have the group of 6.
It'd be tough, though, because, like, the angels are kind of busted.
They're kind of busted.
And that's the point, because, like, it plays on the whole, like, moral themes and everything, but, like, you couldn't actually have their suits of armor have stats, because it just wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
It would just break the game in every other way. But maybe if you were, like, people that saw all the things that the angels do in the story.
Like
the part